On behalf of the Library Board, welcome to all of our distinguished guests here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a truly wonderful thing to celebrate excellence and to celebrate our history and the people who made it. Australia has a proud history of celebrating our sporting achievement through sporting halls of fame, and they do a roaring trade, as evidenced by a very special occasion at the Crown Casino last night for the Sport Australia Hall of Fame. So what a terrific idea it is to have one for the Fourth Estate as well. I want to congratulate all the inductees here tonight who have made a substantive and an enduring contribution to our free press here in Australia and in Melbourne in particular. I have to say that a gathering of the Fourth Estate's best and brightest is always an occasion to be keenly anticipated. Given the industry's proud history of internecine civility, someone talking to our security department tonight suggested that airline policy might be applied to the dinner tables and that metal knives might be substituted with plastic ones instead, but I'm sure that won't be necessary. Congratulations in particular to Rupert Murdoch and his family. Rupert, who over a lifetime has fearlessly challenged the conventional wisdoms and sacred cows of the industry and turned them on their head, in the process earning the well-earned recognition as Australia's all-time most successful businessman. The Murdochs have been good friends and supporters of the State Library for many years, so from that perspective as well, I'm delighted that Rupert's significant contribution to the media world has been recognised here this evening. I'd also like to pay tribute tonight to Keith Dunstan, who embodied many of the inherent contradictions of true free thinkers, launching, as we heard, the Anti-Football League in the football-obsessed Melbourne, while also becoming one of the all-time great chroniclers of the history of, as he coined it, the paddock that grew at the MCG. Now, none of us want to revive the hackneyed Sydney-Melbourne rivalry, but at the risk of doing so, I'd say Melbourne's journalistic heritage runs deeper and richer, and wider too. I think it's fair to say that this state, by virtue of its history, its geography, and its diverse economic base in the city and the bush, breathed life into a media landscape as varied as that of any on earth. One of the founders of Melbourne, John Pascoe Faulkner, was one of our original media barons, producing by hand Melbourne's first newspaper, the Melbourne Advertiser, in 1838, a newspaper which went on to become the Argus Group. A copy of Melbourne's original Advertiser resides right here at the State Library. Its title shows that, internet notwithstanding, business models in the industry haven't changed a great deal in 180 years. The principle of cross-selling media product was well established too, the Advertiser being available either on a paid basis, which was not so popular, or a substantially more popular free at the pub model. Melbourne has long boasted iconic mastheads that have covered the field of human endeavour and public interest. These have included the Motherships, the Age, the Sun News Pictorial, the Herald, the Weekly Times, the Sporting Globe, the Sunday Press, the Sunday Observer. In the 50s, there was also the Argus and others. And in that company, you could include the Albury Border Mail, which for all intents and purposes was regarded as a great metropolitan daily newspaper. And in that list, we must include the other great Melbourne masthead, The Truth, which in its own individual way was as Melbourne as any of the mainstream papers. There was also something uniquely Melbourne about its radio and television too. But let's not get too misty-eyed about all this. Remember that here too was delivered the most searing indictment yet levelled at the Australian Press Corps. As I'm sure you're all aware, it was delivered here in Melbourne, not a mile or two from this spot, that old Blue Eyes himself declared himself decidedly offside with the Australian media from the stage at Festival Hall in 1974, with his notorious hookers of the press monologue. John Coates is here tonight, and for his benefit I remind the audience that it was his media advisor, the widely respected Mike Tancred, who I'm reliably informed was largely responsible for Cranky Frankie's outburst. Apparently Mike was a bit pushy as a young radio reporter, and somehow he got past the security cordon, protecting the great man at his hotel, and unable to get a proper interview, in exasperation put a question that I think he thought would be a harmless and friendless inquiry. Frank Sinatra's retort from the stage was priceless. He said, "One idiot called me up and wanted to know what I had for breakfast." What did he care what I had for breakfast? I wanted to tell him about what I did after breakfast. And it was pretty much downhill from there. Look, I'm delighted that the Melbourne Press Club has set itself the task of honouring those who've made journalism their life's work and contributed to the tradition of the craft. Part of that tradition involves the earnest pursuit of serious stories. We can think of the aged tape stories of the 80s, the countless yarns broke by the likes of John Sylvester or Andrew Rule, or more recently the works of Baker and Mackenzie. There are many good reasons, ladies and gentlemen, this Hall of Fame exists to preserve and celebrate the stories and the big personalities of this industry. This is never more important than now, at a time when the media, particularly quality journalism, faces what seems to be an existential threat to its survival. It's pretty tough for journalists on occasions to be referred to as content providers or providers of curated product, or having to compete with 140 character thought bubbles. But even with that, no one has any confident line of sight of the future of journalism and the revenues that will underpin it. I know that from my first-hand experience on a 7-year journey as a foundation shareholder in the Australian Independent Business Media online journalism venture with industry greats Alan Kohler and Robert Gottliebson, where we essentially wandered around in a fog of uncertainty as to how to make new media work, the new media business model work, while all the time faking clarity and certitude. Our motto was the one often associated with the Harvard Business School, which is often wrong but never in doubt. Yet a robust independent press and curious journalistic minds remain as much as ever cornerstones of our civic society. Whatever the medium, there will always be a market for the message well researched, well understood, and relayed with the benefit of deep knowledge and perspective. It might not seem so now, but it is true and will remain so. I offer 2 events this evening in the past year as evidence of the continuing power and importance of the free press. First, one of the giants of the new media world, Jeff Bezos, buying one of the greatest icons of the old media world, the Washington Post. If old mastheads and media traditions were truly headed for the knackery, why did this happen? Hasn't it been ever thus in our democratic society, with new money being recycled to sustain and grow old traditions, especially in the press? Secondly, I'd offer the spectacle of Russian President Vladimir Putin, renowned for his commitment to a robust and inquiring press, opining recently in the New York Times and the Washington Post on the subject of American democracy and power, the irony of which wasn't lost even on the Americans. A timely reminder to many of the power and substance of the West's free press traditions, a bit like democracy's reserved powers, something that people don't tend to think about until an event occurs that makes them stop and reflect on the liberties and benefits of a democratic society underpinned by a free press. Now, we at the State Library are delighted to be hosting this very special event this evening. Libraries serve a similarly vital civic role as does the media, and that is open access to global information. We, like you, face a challenge from the digital revolution that at first inspection seems to pose a fundamental challenge to what we do and what we stand for. Yet we believe this revolution gives us a once-in-a-generation opportunity to redefine ourselves and make us more relevant to the community that we serve. We will always be the home to Victoria's history and to our written heritage, but we can and will also now be a hub for our digital future and be a leader in the public debate and the intellectual life of this state. We're also lucky to have our home here in Victoria's most beautiful and historically significant public building, and we are proposing some important further improvements to this building through projects such as the redevelopment of the Queen's Hall, which is just up there, which was Australia's original library space founded in 1854. This will require some significant funding, but I won't go into that subject tonight. One of our key projects here at the library, though, is central to tonight's occasion, and it's my great pleasure tonight to announce that the State Library has committed to the Melbourne Press Club to becoming the permanent home for the Victorian Media Hall of Fame. We believe, as our community's public information institution, we have an important role to play to help you honour and celebrate the great traditions and characters of our free press. We hope it will inspire and motivate independent thinkers in the decades to come to take up the cause of great journalism, irrespective of what form their message is published. We look forward here at the Library to a long and boisterous partnership between the State Library and the Melbourne Press Club through the Victorian Media Hall of Fame, and congratulations again to all inductees this evening.